Some leaders leave footprints, others leave libraries. You're tuning into the Authors on Mission podcast, where industry giants become literacy legends. In every episode, we talk with authors who turn their brilliance into books that transform lives. I'm Danielle Hutchinson, your host and Chief Creative Officer at Authors on Mission. Welcome to your authorship experience. Welcome back, everybody. Today we have a truly remarkable guest who has been transforming business for over 4 decades. Ruth King, known affectionately as the Dutch auntie of business consulting, has helped countless entrepreneurs turn their financial mistakes into stepping stones for success. And her latest book, 101 Dumb Financial Mistakes Business Owners Make and How to Avoid Them, isn't just another business guide. It's a whole accumulation of real-world experiences that can save your business from the pitfalls that have claimed so many others. So from garage startups to multi-million-dollar operations, Ruth has seen it all. And more importantly, she's helped business owners navigate through it all. So as a listener, whether you're also a seasoned entrepreneur or aspiring writer or just starting your journey, today's conversation will give you amazing insights on how to avoid the costly mistakes and also writing process as well. So let's dive in with the straight talking, no nonsense wisdom of Ruth King. And with that, welcome, Ruth. Welcome to our podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. I'm excited to be here and hopefully give your audience some interesting and things that they can implement immediately to help them.
Yeah, that's what it's all about. You know, our listeners here, they all have ideas for books, or they're writing books and they want to get it out there. And so, you know, here today, we're going to talk about your experiences with that and how it brought you to where you are today. So to all of our listeners, I was just talking to Ruth, and she has come to the point now where she is actually staying at her clients' houses and consulting them on ongoing trips like that. And to me, that is just such an incredible thing where you're able to go and travel and form these personal relationships with your clients and help them in more ways than one. So can you tell us a little about that? How did that come to be? Because to me, I've never gone to a client's house yet. Tell me a little bit about that.
So I've been consulting since 1981, working with businesses, helping them grow profitably and build wealth. And some of them have sold for, millions and millions and millions of dollars. And I learned a long time ago, it's not only about the business. If you only work on the business and don't work on the personal side, you've only, basically done half the work. So the light bulb went on years and years and years ago. And I always try to not only understand what's happening with the business, but what's happening in the personal lives of the owners. And I have phenomenal relationships with my clients. He's not the only house I stay at, quite frankly, but that's the relationship you want with your clients, that you can really know what's going on personally, and they can feel comfortable talking to you about what's going on in their lives, because what's going on in their lives affects their business. And if they're not in good shape mentally because of something personal, then their business is going to suffer as a result of it. Sometimes I play marriage counselor, believe it or not, between husband and wives who are, fighting and all that sort of fun stuff. Generally, it's the wife who's doing the books, and the wife doesn't know how to do the books. And then husband wants things, and she just is really frustrated with it. So we go find a bookkeeper. That usually solves the problem and solves the marriage, actually. So, yeah.
Yeah, and then that's just like an incredible whole journey right there. And, for a lot of people out there, they're hoping to follow in footsteps just like yours too. I mean, like, what steps did you take in order to get to where you are at this point now, where you're able to just have these clients reach out to you and have these experiences? Did your book play a big role in that?
Actually, no.
No. Okay.
This is the book that we're talking about, 101 Dumb Financial Mistakes, is actually book number 6.
Book 6, yes.
So, but I started out and fell into working with the contracting industry, plumbing, electrical, HVAC, and that's where it all started. And the first book I wrote was The Ugly Truth About Small Business. And that book really talks about all the horrific things that happened to us as a result of being business owners. And my grandfather always used to say that, learn from the mistakes of others. You won't make those mistakes and have those heartaches. But guess what? You'll have more, but, just, learn. And so that was the first book that I wrote. But the consulting really and truly, and working and coaching with business owners, was way before the books. I've always written. I've written since 7th grade, and I'm now in my 60s. So you know how long I've been writing. And I have a love for it. And I've been writing and for about 15 years, I had a column in one of the local Atlanta newspapers every Friday called Business Sense. And that's really what got me on the whole thing of writing books in terms of being able to take what I had written and do that. And then in 2001, I started my first, at that point, they were called e-zines. And Constant Contact wasn't around, MailChimp wasn't around, none of those were around. So every Monday morning, we would BCC 249 email addresses with the content of the week. So,
Wow.
I think I've missed one or two in the early years because of technology, but I don't miss them anymore. So every week I write. And so, I mean, it's writing a book is a compilation of being able to write every single day and every single week and just continuing the writing process. It's got to be, I want to write a book. So many people have told me for this one too, I could have written it. I said, but you didn't. You've got to spend the time, effort, and energy to do it. And my writing time's about 5 o'clock in the morning. So
Mhm.
I write, or I do, personal things from about 5 to 6 in the morning. And then I go do go work out and go do my day. But you have to commit to it. You have to commit to a time. Doesn't matter whether it's weekends, doesn't matter whether it's during the week. You commit to writing. If you want to write a book, you commit to writing.
Yeah, that is something that a lot of our listeners struggle with. And it actually is a topic that comes up a lot on this podcast is the idea that you want to write, but you don't have time for it. You don't think that you have time for it, but it's a matter of just scheduling it into your day. For you, 5 a.m. works. Personally, I also have written at that time, but it is tricky to get up in here really early in the morning. But I'm sure you'll agree, there's definitely a benefit of like getting up, seeing the sunrise as you're typing on your computer with that cup of tea or that cup of coffee. It adds inspiration to it. But for a lot of our business owners, they don't have that luxury. So, sometimes people are texting me or, transcribing to me whenever they have time within busy meetings throughout their day. Like you just have to schedule it out and really stick to it.
Yeah.
Um, while you were writing, did you ever find a time where you're like, you have to kind of force yourself to, okay, no, I have to get to the computer, I have to write. Is it ever a struggle for you to
It,
maintain that?
there are days that you just don't feel like writing, but you just go and start writing, and magically the words start coming out. It's
Yeah,
like, I
yeah.
don't feel like exercising today, but once you get to the gym, it's fine. It's just forcing yourself to sit down or forcing yourself to go to the gym and just do it. I mean, I know that's Nike's line, but you just
I
have,
mean, it applies to all of us, whether or
yeah,
not you're Nike.
yes. And
Yeah, no, it's a matter of finding time, like you said, and that's the only way you could ever get it done and actually take steps toward it. If you're just talking about one day writing that book, it's never going to
yeah,
happen.
and the thing is, you don't have to write for hours and hours. Take 15 minutes a day. Everybody's
Yeah.
got 15 minutes a day that we waste, do things that we probably shouldn't be doing. But, my husband is a night person. So if you ask him to write anything at 5 o'clock in the morning, it will look like junk. And my daughter too, they're very creative at midnight. So, that's when they do their creative. I'm asleep, okay? That's not my time.
Yeah, yeah. It's funny. I actually just wrote a blog post very similar to that because we all have those, natural times in the day where our brain is more active or more creative. So you need to find that window that works best for you and for your husband, it's not in the morning. For
No,
some
it's
people, it's
definitely.
while they're on the treadmill. Sometimes it's, in the morning, sometimes it's, even the shower. Some people are like, yeah, I'm just like voice transcribing, because I sometimes you get your most inspiration there. So it's whatever works. With Authors on Mission, we always try to, accommodate to whatever works best for you and, accommodating to your schedule so that, as an angel writer myself, you just have to find a way that to make sure that your client stays on track. And sometimes if it comes down to 15 minutes a day of just like shooting ideas back and forth, then that's what it has to be.
Yeah, I
So,
mean,
yeah.
whatever works for you. It's not I want to, I have to make the time to.
Yes.
And you commit to doing it and make the time to do it. And you do it when you feel like it, when you don't feel like it. And sometimes the words that come out when you really don't feel like it and get started are better than the words when you feel like it.
hmm Yeah, and kind of branching off of that, another aspect of writing is making sure that well, another excuse that a lot of people have aside from the time factor is always, the fear of failure, right? Like I'm gonna spend all this time writing my book. I'm a busy, business person and I don't have time to write, but what if I do it and it comes out terribly, right? So you can't have the fear of failure. And the reason I bring this up is because that's actually a big, topic that you talk about in your books and your interviews. I
Mhm.
actually watched an interview that you did with Fox, and you talked a lot about how, you have to learn to fail well. So I wonder
Mhm.
if you could maybe give us a little bit of information about, that particular interview and tell us about how that can also apply to anything in
Yeah.
life, including writing.
So that was the story of my fifth startup. And I had $1.5 million contract, 800,000 of investment riding on that contract. I'd put in north of a $500,000 of my money. And the company who basically said, was, we had written the contract, we had started working on it and everything else like that. Called one day and said, contract's canceled. I mean, and everything just falls apart. All right. So I went outside and in tears and everything else like that. And this little voice in the back of my head with my dad saying, pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and get going. And so, I mean, if I could have quit, then I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing today. I mean, we ended up still starting up. I had like $25,000 left on my credit cards. And we started in 2001 with like 13 customers. And it's still going today. I mean, so that's what, this is 2024, so it's 23 years ago. And had I quit, it never would have happened. And so, yeah, can you fail? Sure. That could have been a failure. But then there's this little voice, the daddy saying in the back of your mind, pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and get going.
Right, right. Yeah, you can't just like dwell on those sorts of things, and you need to spin it in a way in your own mind that you can learn from it and
Yeah.
kind of take it as just like another step on your journey. I mean, because every little thing that happens, failures or successes, always brings you back to where you are now.
Yeah.
So I,
What's
I love
failure,
that.
though? Yeah, what's
Yeah.
failure? I mean, over the years, I've definitely learned it, but it's just something that didn't work. Go figure out what works. If you truly want to do this, and you truly want to write a book, and the reason that you want to write the book is reasonable in your mind, and you can help people, and you can do X, Y, Z, A, B, and C, find another way to do it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's a great tip. And, along with that, I mean, you mentioned before in your interviews that, there's a 95% failure rate in 5 years for any opening business, right? So what do you notice in the 5% that actually do succeed? Like one could be that kind of mentality, but what are some other things you notice as patterns of those who actually do make it out?
It's going to sound absolutely insane, but if you don't understand the financial side of business, you're going to fail. You're absolutely going to fail. What got you in business was a passion for providing a product or providing a service. That gets you in business. But what keeps you in business is making sure that's profitable, making sure that you're taking care of your customers, making sure that you're building the wealth of the business, making sure that your customers are paying on time. And that's all the financial side. And none of us, including me, except unless we're CPAs or bookkeepers, start our business to do financials. But it is absolutely those 5% learn it. And they look at their financials every single month.
Yeah, I mean, you'd think that would almost be like a given though too, right? Because that's kind of the main point that you want to have a business. You need to be aware of your financials. But I guess I can see how if you get so involved in the day-to-day aspects that maybe you just, you're not checking in on them. Is that sort of the pattern that you're noticing? Or is maybe I'm off base? What do you think?
Well, a lot of them, accountants have tried to make it really, really hard to understand some financial terms, and they're really and truly not. All of us have a hobby. We've started something. It was really hard in the beginning, but we worked at it, or even maybe be part of our jobs. We worked at it so that we got good at it so that we could advance or do whatever we wanted to do. That's the same thing with financials. I mean, the books that I've written make it really, really easy. They're in English. They're not in accounting babble or anything else along those lines. So if you spend half an hour a month, which we all have, and just review financial statements, you're way ahead. And I'll tell you an interesting story with one of my clients who is now happily retired. But anyway, they were growing so fast and everything else like that. And I was watching their accounts receivable days. And that is from the time you send out an invoice to the time you get paid. How many days is it? I mean, receivable days, that's what it means. And so I'm watching it go like 30, 40, 50. It got to 100 days. And I'm saying, you got to start collecting. We're too busy to collect. We can barely get our bills out. It hit about 100, and they had $1 million in receivables and no money in the bank to pay for the gas for their fleet. All right.
Right.
Sometimes you just got to get hit between the eyes with the 2x4. And that was just getting hit between the eyes with the 2x4. And after that, he goes, all right, I learned my lesson. I'll pay attention. And
Yeah,
it started
sometimes it's
going
those
again.
hard lessons that you just, to really get it through somebody's head, you know what I mean? I mean, I guess that's kind of why, like, they call you the Dutch auntie, right? Like, you need to give people tough love and, like,
Yeah.
learn those kinds of lessons, right?
Yeah.
I mean, where did you get that nickname anyway?
Oh gosh, I don't remember. Somebody gave it to me, and I can't remember who it is. I mean, it was years and years and years ago. Somebody gave me that nickname. I couldn't tell you today who gave it to me.
It's so
Somebody
funny.
did,
You took it and
obviously.
you held on to it
Yeah.
for many
Yep.
years and kind of used that as your branding, I guess we could say, in a way, right? Because you don't let people off easy.
No, I have very long or very short relationships with my clients. The very short ones don't want to do it. They realize they don't want to do it, and we part company because I'm not wasting their money or their time or my time, because time is more valuable than money to me.
Mm.
And then my oldest client, who I started with in 1987, sold his business in December of 2021. So that's a long time for a client. I mean, that's almost 40 years. And I helped him sell it. It was time to sell, and I totally get it. I mean, he needed to sell it, and he did, and he's happy, and we still talk and everything. So that's the friend thing, I guess, that you talked about earlier. But, I get into their lives, and it was really time to sell because his wife was starting to have some health issues, and he wasn't working full time anymore, and he wasn't focused on the business so much anymore. It was, I mean, they were very profitable, very, and everything along those lines. And it was time to go. Go. Go do something else with your life. Enjoy your life with your wife for, as long as she has left.
Yeah, I mean, wow, that's actually crazy because like 40 years, it's longer than many like marriages or relationships. And here you are, like, you're able to build these sorts of foundations for people that last so long. I mean, that's just like a testament to like the amount of impact that you leave on people's lives and their
Yeah.
businesses too. I mean, for all of our
Yeah.
listeners out there, that's something that we would all inspire for, right? To have like such an impact and an influence that it lasts that long in that many
Yeah. A
years.
lot of them I'm working with their kids or their grandkids now.
Really, it's
Yeah.
generational.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. That's really something. I mean, I guess I could say that, in a way it has to do with, of course, your expertise, your knowledge, your experiences, but also the way that you're presenting yourself too, the way that you're forming these relationships. And I'm sure your books also have a part to play too, because, you have more credibility in the field. You got over six books out there, right?
Yeah.
So, it just all goes part to play in building that brand of yours. Wow.
A lot of people, when they finally call me, said, I've been, following you and reading your books and everything else. All right, I'm ready to start. Sometimes it takes years. I don't know who said it, but the line is, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. I don't know whether that was a Buddhism or, something like that, but it's true. You may build up, build up, build up for years and years and years. And I think that goes back to your comment about failure. I mean, I'm not sure that a lot of authors give their books enough time to percolate, so to speak.
Mm.
I look at writing a book as like having a baby. I mean, the fun part is the birth. You write it and it's, being published and everything else like that. And the baby's born. Well, guess what? You got to care and nurture the baby.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's so many times a book goes out and then maybe it's seen as a failure at first, but it's many years down the line that it actually picks up traction. I was just talking to somebody I believe it was on this podcast actually not too long ago, where they had a book out there, but it wasn't for many years when this topic actually gained traction that it became a bestseller. So, it's more of like, don't give up on it, take it as almost like a something to come back to, right? Or to market differently in a way that would reach broader audiences. Even if your book doesn't become successful right away, doesn't mean it's the end of the line for it. It's a timeless piece of work that's, written in pages, it's sealed there on the bookshelf. So even if it's not making money right now, doesn't mean you can't, repurpose it for that
Right.
later on. I get what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Da Vinci Code was Dan Brown's third book. His first two failed miserably. And
Mm.
then look what happened.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a matter of again, if you want to do it, you have to write it, but then you also have to continue nurturing it as well. So that's just kind of like the second step of, I guess, this advice that we're giving our listeners today. You want to write a book, you have to actually sit and write it, hold yourself accountable to it. There's 15 minutes a day, but then when it's out there, continue building it up, building it up.
Yeah, one of the lessons that I learned, because I travel a lot, I have my clients all over the country, is always have your books with you. I
Mm.
was sitting in the Sky Club in Salt Lake City talking to somebody about the books or whatever else it is on my cell phone, right? And this guy said to me, "What books did you write?" And did I have one with me? No.
Mm. Well, you said the Sky Lounge, it's an airport,
Yeah, in the
correct?
airport.
So I guess, carry-on bags, you don't have a lot of space for all of your books to fit in there, but I
Bring
get what you
one.
mean.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Bring one.
you definitely want to be able to, like, in a way, your book is your business card.
That's right.
So, yeah, maybe bring extra carry-on next time.
No, I mean, the books, my books are small enough that it's not like a 3-inch tome or something like that, they're all story driven, and you can fit one easily in your laptop bag.
Perfect. No,
And
that's ideal. And you know what, for all of our listeners out there, when you go to check out Ruth's books now you know it's easy enough to fit right with you. And you can always pull it out as a resource as well, just keep it with you too.
yeah,
That's also the good benefit of having like a nice, quick, easy book to pull out.
yeah. The
Yeah.
other thing I would suggest, and I've done this with all the books, is record it. Put it on Audible, put it on Kindle, because some people don't like to read, they prefer to listen. They're on their treadmill, or they're on the bike, or they're walking outside or something like that, and they can easily listen on an Audible, whereas they don't have to carry a book. So we get a lot of Audible downloads just as much as the books now. I mean, back in 2004 when the first book came out, there was no Audible, there was no Kindle. All right. So it's changed a lot. And I have read all 6 books into Audible.
That's amazing. So it's your own voice too. So our listeners, if you're loving what Ruth has to say now, check out those audiobooks. I mean, our listeners like listening. So this is the perfect opportunity for them to get into your content without having to actually even pick up a book. If they're busy and they don't have the time, they hop right on it. And when you're in traffic on your next commute to work,
Yeah.
start listening to this stuff because I mean, clearly you've seen incredible success. Your clients have seen incredible success for upwards of 40 years for some of them. So what you have to say is very, important to know for any business owner, clearly. I mean, do you have a story, for example, of a client that you helped in a way that, if they hadn't come to you, they would have seen tremendous failure? Can you give us an example of, maybe one of your favorite success stories?
So the turnarounds, they're always fun. All right. So started working with a client, and his banker was willing to loan him the money after she and I had a conversation to be able to grow the business and get it out of where it was. So he borrowed the money from with a banker's blessing to be able to do this. It started going really, really well, and then they didn't get a receivable in the door that they needed to do payroll. I mean, it just started crashing. So they were in the parking lot of the Walmart crying in terms of, where are we going to get the money? Do we need to shut our doors? Say, no, you can do X, Y, Z, A, B, and C. I talked them off the ledge, and they didn't go bankrupt. We found the money. They made payroll on everything along those lines. And then now it's starting to do really, really, really well. But they had to go through the absolute craziness of almost crashing,
Mm.
and not, being so emotional about it rather than looking at it rationally. And I think in a lot of cases, that's where I come in, is I help them look at the rational and get over the emotional, especially when things are not going well. So something similar happened to another client, and I'm flying. I'm at 30,000 feet, right? So I'm texting this client who's gone through it with the one who's about to go through it, saying, you two need to talk.
So you
All
connected
right.
them.
So I got them talking to each other, and I'm flying, So now, thankfully, we can do texting and everything else in airplanes, which made that easy. But, occasionally it's just getting through the emotion and being able to say, okay, let's look rationally where you are. Let's look rationally where we can get the money. Who owes you money? And I mean, you go through the list and look at it and help them figure out, okay, this idea will work. This will work, rather than, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? You know,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, and even from, thousands of feet up in the air on airplanes, you're still able to help them and reach out. That's amazing. And
yeah.
it's funny how, as I'm talking to you, I'm learning how your approaches have just adapted over the years. I mean, you mentioned before, your books were not on Audible because there's no Audible, if that happened in a time where there wasn't any texting on planes, what would you have done, right? But it's funny how you're able to adapt the current times. I mean, I'm sure your theories and everything has also adapted with time too, being that, the market's always changing as well.
Mhm.
Would you agree that, your approaches might have changed over the years and,
The
adapted?
fundamentals have not
The
changed.
fundamentals are the
The
same. Okay.
execution of the fundamentals has changed with technology a great
Understood.
deal. I mean, when I went to college, I had a slide rule. All right. I didn't have a calculator.
Honestly, a slag rule? What?
You're doing
What
what
is
my daughter did. When my daughter was 9 years old, she was downstairs in my old desk from college, and she pulls out this thing that looks like a ruler, and it's not a
okay.
ruler. She goes, "Mommy, what is this?" And I said, "Something you'll never have to use." And I showed her how to multiply on the slider. She goes, "No, thanks. I'll use my calculator." But we didn't have calculators back then. All right. So
Okay.
our
I'm like looking it up right now on Google, trying to find a picture of this thing. Okay, so I see it now. It's got a little rectangle and you're sliding it back and forth.
that's
That is
right.
so funny because I don't think when I was little, we even had that at
Now
all.
you had
Yeah.
calculators, I'm sure. And so think about
That
it
is
from that perspective.
hilarious.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm in high school. I don't have a calculator. By the time I finished college and grad school, I needed a programmable calculator. So in the
Mm.
span of 6 years, we've gone from no calculator to one that's really, nothing like is still today, what we have on
Yeah.
calculators and what I have on my cell phone.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Ruth, nowadays we don't need calculators. We type it into ChatGPT.
Yeah. Or we
Or
or we do it on our cell phone because our cell phones all have calculators in them.
yeah, well, not even that. I don't even bother opening my notes app. I ask Siri. I'm like, "Hey Siri, what's this plus this?" Like that's so funny how it's changed nowadays. I mean, this relates exactly to what you're talking about too, though, because, it's a matter of adapting to the current times in a way that's still going to be useful to you and make taking advantage of these new technologies.
Yeah. And there'll
So,
be more. I guarantee you there'll be more new technologies. I mean, with AI coming in, I mean, we taught AI how to read a small business financial statement. Had
okay.
to. Nobody.
Did you hear that?
Yeah. There goes
Siri was
Siri.
listening. She was like, I don't understand that. Sorry, I'm gonna put Siri away for now, but that's, she wanted to butt into our podcast.
That's fine.
So you
Yeah.
taught it how to read the business statements, you're saying.
Yeah, it absolutely. I mean, and every small business's financial statement is not consistent like the Fortune 500 ones are. They're Fortune 500 are audited, they're neat, they're the same way all the time. And small businesses call things different things, and they're in different places and different locations. So in order to be able to analyze financial statements, not me doing it, but actually doing it through software, we actually had to I taught AI how to read financial statements, and I had somebody program it.
Wow, I mean that's incredible. I mean, especially because, AI is not it seems like it's an easy thing to tackle, but it's
It's
not
not. I
always. Oh,
promise you, it's not.
yeah, wow. I mean, that's incredible too. Is that a resource that anybody could use now that you've taught it? How would
Yeah.
they go about using that
The,
tool?
the software is called Financially Fit Business.
Okay.
Financially Fit Business is actually the website. And you upload your financial statements. It reads them and goes, okay, they look, accurate. Like there's none of the 12 major things that are wrong with them. Or you have negative cash. Do you want to upload them anywhere? Or you want to fix this?
That is incredible. To all of our listeners out there, I mean, we're all business owners, entrepreneurs. That is something they could all use, Ruth. I mean, we'll put the link right into the chat, or along with this podcast so that anyone listening right now can click on it and check it out.
Yeah.
Um, that's
It's
really
fun, and the thing about AI is that once you teach it, it follows the rule. So, I mean, we were uploading more tests and everything else like that. And there was this little negative number in overhead. They had gotten a refund for a marketing expense or something like that. and I missed it.
Mm.
AI caught it.
Nice, nice. Yeah, sometimes it really does help you.
Yeah.
You know, I guess relating it back to the writing world now that, we're on this topic, it's proven to definitely be a resource and a detrimental aspect as well when you think about it. I
Mhm.
mean, you can train it to create outlines for you, to take, if you want to write a book, you have your topics in mind. How do you organize it in a way that the reader is going to resonate? That
Yeah.
kind of thing is very useful. However, I mean, I've seen so many clients come to me saying, like, I've written this book, and they show it to me, and I'm like,
No, you didn't.
this is all AI, my friend. And it's funny because, it's a powerful tool for researching, for organizing, but at the end of the day, it's tricky to try to turn it into a book. Recently I've had a lot of people come to me to want to humanize their AI books. They've openly admit, like, I was busy, I didn't have time to write. I used it as a tool to write my chapter. So I'm able to kind of take it and, all right, let me make this more humanized to make sure we're not repeating ourselves. And because that's something AI loves to do, is repeat, repeat, repeat. So it's just an interesting factor of how it's also, kind of merged into the writing world. But at Authors on Mission, we're able to kind of help you out more than AI can, in a way that gives you the human touch. So just
Well,
a little
yeah,
side note.
yeah. AI can't tell the stories.
No.
And all
Yeah.
of us have stories that can actually, backup's not the right word, but support's probably the right word, the writing that we're doing. So the stories are what people really remember more so than what you've written. And AI cannot write a story. The story
No,
comes
as
from
much as
your
it'll
personal.
try.
Yeah, so,
I mean, the fundamental basis of AI is that it's building its knowledge based on data that it's collecting.
that's right.
So, if you try to get it to write a story, it's focusing on that data and what it knows rather than, your personal thoughts and experiences. And that's what readers resonate with.
That's
That's
right.
what drives a successful book.
Hmm.
So,
They resonate's a really, really good word, but they can empathize with you too.
Yeah,
And
yeah. I mean, in order to really, make your book successful for anybody, especially with nonfiction, like, in the realm that we're dealing with here, you can lay out facts and data all day to your readers, but what they're actually going to remember is the stories. For example, I had this one client who was talking about successful hiring practices. So like, but rather than talking about the statistics behind it, we told a story about how he had to unfortunately let go one of his best friends. And, that story kind of like gave the gist and information we needed, but in a way that, everybody could relate to, it's that sort of thing. So
yeah,
being
I do the
emotional
same
with it.
thing.
Yeah.
I do it with the
Tell me one of
financials.
your examples in
Yeah.
your most recent books.
So one of my clients, CPAs, hands him a piece of paper with 12 months of a P&L side by side by side by side. And all it is a page of numbers and going, can't you see this? And he's like, no, I don't get what you're telling me. So we turned that page into number of numbers into graphs. So he could actually see what was going on with his business. So numbers of pages of numbers don't work. You've got to be able to see and visually see trends and everything else like that. We turned it into a graph, and I'm not going to use his expletive, but he goes, oh, blank. I'm really losing my blank.
That's funny. And you know what? It's so relatable too, because it's exactly something that a real person would say.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, there's so much value in making sure that our nonfiction books have those personal stories and,
Yeah. They
you know,
have
not
to. Yeah.
not only for relating to the reader, but also for adding credibility too.
Hmm.
Like for example, if you're talking about a success story and or like a theory, how do you know your tactics are successful, but now you have like concrete examples that you're throwing into your books and weaving throughout your chapters. It's just another important strategy that I always recommend to anybody trying to write, just for that
Yeah.
aspect too.
And they have to is not the right word. You can write an entire book of quote unquote words, but
Mhm.
people aren't going to read your book as a general rule that that I find. I mean, I don't even read books that are 500 pages of words, especially nonfiction books. I like to see graphs, I like to see stories, I like to see data backing up quote unquote the words. And that's a personal thing. And I mean, I write like that too,
Oh,
but
it's not personal. You
yeah,
need something to back it up.
yeah,
Joe Schmo can start writing a book and just be like, these are my theories. And then we're like, okay, great. What did they do?
yeah, exactly. Give
Yeah.
me the results of your
Mhm.
theories.
Exactly, exactly. So yeah, I mean, again, to our listeners, another tip right there, just, you need those personal stories, those case studies, the successes, the failures. Going back to failures again. That's something I always say too. We don't want to hear about only your successes. If you're writing a book, I'm sure within your own books, you probably mention, the failures, of course, too,
I
because
do.
that's how you relate to them.
Yeah, I mean, I think some people learn more from failure, quote unquote failures. And I don't
Mhm.
look at it as failures. I look at it as, okay, this didn't work. Let's figure out something that will work. But the underlining reason for it is you've got to have a really good why to take the failure and make it work.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And that why is, the basis of why you're writing the book to begin
Mhm.
with. You're finding a niche that had to be filled, a topic that had to be, explained. And for you, I mean, with all of your books, you found an excellent way to go about doing that. Um, so yeah, I mean, kudos to you. You're able to make every book have a purpose, write it in a way that resonated with readers, and they're all, short and sweet and simple in a way that fits right into your carry-on luggage. So to all of our listeners, check out Ruth's books. I mean, they can probably find them on Amazon and
Oh
bookshelf
yeah,
everywhere. So
they're all on Amazon. The Kindle version, the Audible version, the book version are all on Amazon. All six
perfect.
of them. Yeah, you can get them all there. And again, we get more audio downloads now than we get book sales, believe it or not.
Yeah, well, again, because that's, in the busy world that we live in, that's kind of unfortunately the growing trend is, especially with business books and,
Mhm.
nonfiction books like that you got to read it on the go sometimes. So it's a great method. Now, we've talked a lot about, your books, your successes, your everything like that. What's next for you, Ruth? What do you have anything on the horizon that you're currently working on that perhaps we can chat about a little bit? What are you planning
So,
on the
do
radar?
I have the idea for book number seven? No. Okay.
I guess that's where I was getting with that. Yeah. Not
I
yet.
will I will eventually have it. And I'm sure that one of my clients will give me the seed for it. Because that's
Mm,
generally what happens. And that's how I wrote the 101 dumb financial mistakes is like, my clients were just doing stupid stuff. And I said,
mhm.
okay, enough, put it in a book. And like now they'll go, oh, I'm number so and so, or I'm number
That's funny.
yeah.
Is that
But
actually something you use a lot with your clients then? Like, all right, what number are you doing right now? Let's think about it.
they get
Um,
it. But I'm working more so on believe it or not, on the AI side of it and making the financial statements, understanding, trying to make financial statements come alive. And that's really where we're going with respect to, all right, you got a P&L and balance sheet. They don't necessarily mean squat. I don't like 95% failure because of the financial side of business. Let's look at, get so that financials are not this, thing I'm afraid of, but things that actually the light bulb can go on and it makes it easy and makes it where I see what's going on in the business. And that's where we're heading right now with financially fit business.
got it, got it. So that's kind of their newest project is building that up. And I can see why, because I mean, we are just talking about how important the AI industry is becoming now. So, anything that can make a business person's life easier. And if you could just plug in your financials into that, I mean,
Yeah.
what a treasure that they're using that in their daily life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
Nobody can tell me that they don't have 10 minutes a month because literally you upload your financial statements, you click a button, the graphs come out and you look at the graphs. And then we tell you what the graphs are saying. I mean, come on. I can't make it any easier.
yeah, I mean, maybe that's a topic to explore, in your next book. I mean, down the road is like how AI can revolutionize your business. I mean, because that's something that I've seen a lot of clients talking about too. I mean, aside from plugging in your financials, I mean, there's also a whole side of like graphics are now
Oh, yeah.
so easy to just throw into a machine and be like, I need a graphic for a logo for my diner and it'll pop right up for you. Like simple things like that. Like analyze this person's resume. Are they a good hire? Maybe that's a whole nother avenue to explore, just as an example. I don't know, just came to my head.
Well,
But
it's
it's
on the list.
transformative. Sorry.
I'll put it on the list.
Yeah, I don't know. There's many different avenues to explore there. Something to think about.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, we've talked about a lot of different, topics in this interview. We talked about the importance of, if you want to write a book, set aside the time, make sure that you're, really sticking to it. We talked about, seeing your failures as opportunities, growing from it, the importance of AI. I think I might even be forgetting some of these important concepts here. But before we wrap everything up, Ruth, do you have any other bits of advice for anybody out there wanting to follow in your footsteps or who might have been inspired by you today?
If you're going to write a book, have a reason why you want to write that book, because it will take time to write it. There will be the ups and downs of it, especially as you nurture and grow it. If you don't have a really good why for doing it, you'll give up because you got to use that to get through the tough times. And that's true in business. It's true in writing a book. It's true in understanding the financials. It's true in understanding cash flow. And if you don't want to be one of the 95% who basically fail, get to know the financial side of your business. It's not hard.
There you go. Have your why, get to know the financial side, take those steps out there. And more so than that, reach out to Ruth, read her books, learn all these important skills for yourself. And, that's the only way you could do it. If you're stuck in a rut, for example, you need some new insights. What else can you do rather than looking out and searching for those insights, in the form of these books? So
Yeah.
a wealth of knowledge right here, everybody. Well, yeah, I mean, there we have it, folks. An incredible conversation with Ruth King. It's taking us through the trenches of business financial management, into the practical side of writing a book and AI. And honestly, from what I know about you now, Ruth, your approach to business success, it's not just about, flashy strategies. It's about really understanding, the fundamentals of what makes businesses profitable and sustainable. So, for anyone inspired by that, check out her content. And based on her successes, it's clear that writing a book too has really impacted it. So, if you're interested in taking your ideas in your business and amplifying it through the book, reach out to Authors on Mission as well, because we have ghostwriting services, angel writing services, sorry, because we call it angel writing here at Authors on Mission. Angel writing, editing, marketing, everything. So, the tools are at your hands, people, these days. We've got resources everywhere. Find them, take advantage of them. Because, as Ruth so powerfully illustrated today, it's not about the revenue you generate, it's about the profit that you keep and the systems that you put in place. So, Ruth, thank you so much for sharing everything that you shared today. Your book, 101 Dumb Financial Mistakes, is, available now for everyone to find along with her other books. Honestly, thank you for your insights. And to all of our listeners out there, just keep leading, keep writing, keep inspiring. And until next time, have an amazing day. I'll be reaching out soon. And Ruth, thank you so much.
And thanks to all of you too. You all have a great day and an awesome day.
Have an amazing day, everybody. Thank you for listening.
This is Danielle Hutchinson reminding you that somewhere, someone needs the book that only you can write. Visit authorsonmission.com to start your legacy. Until next time, keep leading, keep inspiring, and keep thinking in chapters. Have a great day.